So, how do you define yourself as a leader?
How do I define myself? Oh, I think I bring a pretty balanced approach to the leadership. My current role is being the VP of corporate credit in our credit union is to to be the I don't know if you're familiar with, well, from Valero, you know roughly what how the financial institutions work. So credit, we approve the deals as they come in. So it really is a position that you need to have a balanced approach to it, and from leadership perspective, plus from the operational perspectives, you really have to look at the big picture and the instead of just focusing into 20 tunnel vision in your area. So
Mhm.
I think it's a balanced approach, bringing a lot of common sense type of leadership to it, which I find common sense is something nowadays that's lacking significantly with individuals.
Now, in terms of your success, did you have a plan that you followed around what you wanted to do, or what was your approach?
No, I was never supposed to be a banker. It's been pretty pragmatic. To give you some of my history, I was supposed to take over my family's farm
Oh,
uh,
wow.
years ago, and deviated from that significantly for a number of different reasons. So, even if I look back at my approach back in high school, I did okay, but I never really applied myself adequately in those things until I was really in my early 20s, till I started thinking, well, I actually need to move into a different direction and start, progressing within a different career path. So that's when I started getting, I guess, more serious on that. Um, so I can't say I've ever had a defined plan. Every step I took in my leadership journey, I try to do the best in the position I was in, and then I always take a look at, okay, who are the leaders that are ahead of me, and what are their skills, and where's my gap, based on what I see them do, and can I see myself in that role? And sometimes is no. For instance, I look at our CEO and I don't see myself in that role because
Mhm.
it's just not what drives me. Whereas I look at other leaders, I say, what, I can be in that role and probably do a better job. So it's a bit more pragmatic. It's not I wasn't one of those hugely driven young people that have everything planned out how they want to be. Within 3 years I'll be here, within 4 years I'll be there.
Mhm.
It's basically I I'm still it's still evolving, to be quite honest.
Now, if I were to ask, what is your greatest strength as a leader? What would you say that is?
Um, I think I have a really good ability to step out of my current role and take a step back and look at the big picture and
Mhm.
apply, like I mentioned earlier, some common sense to it versus having the tunnel vision and being really only concerned about one area of the business. So I think that is probably my biggest strength, I feel.
Now, was there ever a challenge or obstacle that you faced in your career that you feel was sort of a turning point for your leadership style?
Yeah, I think I learned early on in my career. I'm not sure if you actually think about the leadership style that has changed. Um, I think I've been fairly consistent. I don't think there's anything that changed within my leadership style. My career path, yes, and how I approached my career path, definitely,
Mhm.
but not so much my leadership style, I don't think.
Now, if you were to go back 10 years in terms of your key attributes as a leader, anything that you've changed in terms of how you lead today compared to before?
I think so. I think as you grow in a leader and you become involved in more senior positions, you do look at more of the broader picture versus
Mhm.
being a leader at a lower level, and really being just focused on, say, your business unit or your little area of responsibility versus moving up the leadership chain and becoming more mature in your leadership, I guess, uh, and being able to look at the broader picture, which is well beyond what your area of responsibility is.
Now, being a leader, I mean, your teams are always key to your success. So, how do you motivate your teams? And do you feel that's changed during the pandemic?
Yeah, well, I think it definitely has changed. And it's become, I guess, in some ways, a little more challenging. I've always been been of the opinion I'm not the smartest guy in the room, or am I intending to be the smartest guy in the room?
Mhm.
I need to be a strong leader and surround myself with very, very competent people that make me look good at the end of the day, and make our team look good, obviously, not just me. But um, so, in terms of motivating and engaging with my group, it's I think it's a bigger challenge, obviously, doing it virtually now that it's more difficult to meet with people in person. And it's it just causes us to have to probably check in more often, because you can't just pop into somebody's office. You can't read body language. Now, that being said, for our organization, because I have distributed teams that work not all in my office, they work throughout BC. So I don't see them on a regular basis anyways. I do travel, and some would see every 3 or 4 months physically, and others I would see, almost daily, so depending where they're located. So I've always had that virtual leadership engagement before. It's just now that you basically have to do that with everybody. So it has changed. And it's become a bit more difficult, but I think we've taken a pretty, probably more of a focus than before to make sure everybody's okay, because you don't have those clues. So you probably check in more often virtually than you would if you saw that person, more consistently, even more, not meeting with them on a scheduled basis, but just running into them and having discussions. So you have to be more, I guess, more deliberate about setting up time.
Now, what motivates you the most as a leader?
Oh, building new things. I hate routine. I'm not good at it. I get bored quite easily. So it's taken on a new challenge and building something. That's always been the number one thing, like building things from scratch, or designing a new process, designing a whole new group or department, and such. So.
Yeah. Well, we definitely have a lot in common. That's what motivates me the most as well. Now, what would you say makes you the most proud as a leader?
Oh, seeing my staff succeed. Really, building a team that others want to be part of. So, having, within our organization, having our credit department operate at such a level and being very successful. And, whereas perhaps other groups have trouble attracting talent, we are able to do that fairly easily, internally, especially because people want to work for us. So that to me makes me more proud.
Now, based on all your experience and success that you've had, what advice would you give the next generation of leaders?
Um, I think to really listen more and speak less, and really understand. I think a lot of leaders, especially young ones, want to come in there and they want to run the show, and they want to be seen as the expert. And that's not what leadership's all about. You don't have to be the expert, the smartest person on your team. You just have to be a good, strong leader. You may not even be the best leader. There might be others within your team that are better at leading their group. And it's not about that. It's about, getting the buy-in and getting folks inspired. So a lot of that, I find that leaders coming into the role are they want to direct, they want to help, they want to be there for everybody. And I think it's more about listening to them and asking them for their solutions versus dictating what needs to be done.
Now, what should the role of a leader be from your perspective when it comes to tackling diversity and inclusion in the workplace?
Oh, I mean, it needs to be a leading role. I mean, you need to be um, um, preaching that and living that as much as possible. You may not be the expert at it and how to operationalize, but you can have other people provide that for you. But it's really the role is to be at the forefront and to engage people and sharing the importance of diversity.
Now, if I were to ask, is there a book that you love or that you would recommend I read from a leadership perspective? What would that be?
It's funny. It's funny because I'm not the kind of leader that thrives on reading a whole lot of leadership books, to be quite honest. I mean, I've always read a number throughout my years, but I don't really focus on that.
Mhm.
It's some of the best type of books are, it's like, I actually enjoyed Dale Carnegie book there. I forget what it's called, for the course. It has some really good information on how to be a leader and how to, again, talk about the listening part and understanding part, and really understanding what drives the person that you're speaking to or leading. So I think that was always my favorite. But I'm not a hugely read on leadership books, to be quite honest.
Yeah. And you'll be surprised, that's actually a common answer, by the way.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was expecting a whole list of books, but that seems to be the common answer.
Well, it's funny, a lot of people go down, whether it's the leadership books or self-help books, and they always promote those, and they have their place. I love them. I think they're great, but I think you get too hung up on some of those books, whereas sometimes you just got to step back and think about yourself. What do you want to be? Because it doesn't, it's not about doing exactly what is presented in a book. It's about what's right for you and what works for you. Yeah. I'm generally an introverted type of person, so what works for me, it's like some of these books don't speak to me at all, because it's just not who I am. It's one thing, you do need to step out of your comfort zone and learn new things, but trying to fake something that you're not, unless it's important. Sometimes you fake things because it just needs to be done, and you fake it till you become it, basically. But there's other times, I think, when we try to put ourselves in a box, and this is what we should be because that's what the latest literature tells us to be. I think that's that can be a little difficult and may not always lead to being the best leader.
Yeah. And I think that's a great message for sort of the next generation of leaders is, you can't have a theme of the year depending on the book that you read. It has to be relevant to you, where you are in your career. Does it work for you? So really understanding that, I think, is important.
Yeah, it's funny because I have these discussions. I've got teenagers at home, and my oldest son, who's 20, is very much in the same type of path as I am with regards to education and perhaps becoming a banker and such. And a very, very keen young man, almost too much so. And we have those discussions all the time, like what you need to be, and just like don't just think of what's written in a book, but be what you need to be for yourself. Don't try to fake it.
Now, if you ever have an opportunity to write a book based on your learnings, what would you write about?
To me, I think maybe I go back to the balanced leadership. Now, like I mentioned to you before, I was never supposed to be the career. Back when I was a teenager, I was never supposed to be what I am now. But when I look back at that, that's probably the biggest thing I'm most proud of as an individual, is my ability to switch, from between industries and skill sets. I'm as comfortable sitting behind a computer as digging a ditch with a shovel. To be quite honest, I come from the background. I've got an MBA, but I also have a Class 1 truck driver's license, and I could drive a semi truck tomorrow if I need. It's those types of things, and I think that for me has it's not about career. It's about, your own the satisfaction of how you've lived your life and what you bring to the table. I think that's always helped me become a more rounded leader, because I understand all those other sides of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, that to me would be the need for that type of, I think, leadership, where, that may take more time, because, you're diverging on career paths and learning different things, but you're building that toolbox to ultimately become a better leader. But for those individuals that are focused on career progression, step by step by step, it's taken a detour here and there, and maybe several detours, which folks may not like. If they go for the title and the pay, that may not be the way to go, because it's going to take longer, but you'll be that much better for it, and hopefully have I think, a more complete journey in your leadership.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the theme.
Now, on a personal level, what do you do to create the balance in your life?
I've got lots of balance. I'm not one of those leaders that thinks, I've got decent work ethics. That's not a problem. But I'm not one of those people that think I need to work 18 hours a day to be a good leader and to progress in my career. I think that is just foolish. And it doesn't lead to quality life. I'm not the kind of person that wants to progress in their career, make as much money as I can, but put my life on hold while I make all this money and then retire with a pot of money and have fun at retirement. I don't believe in that. I think life's a journey, and every step of it needs to be meaningful. So I'm very much about balance. I've got hobbies. My wife and I have hobbies. We've also got another business on the side, which is very fulfilling for us. So it's about, it's about setting those schedules, separating work from home, make sure you can, turn off and have downtime. So I would say that's, that's how I achieve it.
Yeah, that's a powerful reminder. I think sometimes people get so caught up around, is leadership just leading, and the importance of the balance, to your point, and what makes you content.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's not about, and really telling yourself, it's, and I shouldn't say, it's easy to say it's not about the money. It is. We all need to make a living, and life's expensive, but it's really trying to look within yourself to make sure, is that exactly what you want? Because chasing a title may not lead to the result you think it's going to lead to down the road.
Yeah. Now, if I put you on the cover of Time magazine, what would you like it to say?
Oh, geez. I have no idea. World's best father. I don't know. Like, when I reflect at it, if at the end of the day, what do I want people to say at my funeral? And I think it's being a good husband and father. That's at the end of the day, that's what matters, is, always not being there for my wife, but being there for my children in a way that I set them up for success down the road. Career doesn't matter. Career is just a career. That's, whatever, as long as it's fulfilling for me, but it's what I bring to the table, what I leave behind for those around me, I think is what's vital to me.
That's awesome. Now, if I asked you for a quote, that would be sort of the legacy in terms of how you want to be known as a leader. What would you like that quote to be?
Great person to work from, who taught me a lot. I guess if people want to quote, if people, if I think about a quote that people would say about me after, I don't no longer the leader,